You're listening to Discutafel, the podcast on eco-friendly gardening and permaculture.
I think I even if I would have the opportunity to have this garden next to my house, I would prefer to have it here.
Welcome to episode 67 of Discutafel, the last edition of 2019. Today is December 26. I am Yvonne Smit. I'm your Discutafel editor, producer and host. You heard the voice of Saskia the allotmenteer we spoke with in part 1 of this small series on allotment gardening in the UK and the Netherlands. If you happen to have missed this episode, please go to our website or our podcast files on Podbean and you'll find the 63rd episode there. It's been online from November 28. In that first part, we found out there are quite a lot of similarities in allotment history in both countries. But the law in the UK is a difference. We don't have such a thing as Smallholding and Allotment Act here in the Netherlands. In this second and last episode of the series, we're mainly going to talk about the present and the future in allotment gardening in the UK and the Netherlands. 3 special guests share some of their time and expertise with you in both podcast episodes. I feel very fortunate about this. I visited Ons Buiten and Saskia back in November on their allotment site in the city of Utrecht. You'll hear them again later in this program. But first, you're going to hear the familiar voice of Richard from the Veg Grow Up podcast, and we continue our conversation, starting with food lessons from last century's wars. We discuss developments in food industry and consumers' habits. What are modern views on gardening and allotment gardening in the UK? Discu Talk. I think there are still a lot of allotment sites here in the country anyway, with or without the law. After the First World War, their function became a little different. It became more like a recreational function.
Yeah.
And between the two wars, that it stayed that way. And during World War II, we had the same procedure again. A lot of those gardens became real vegetable patches again because food was scarce. And after the Second World War, it became recreation. It became a hobby gardening.
Yeah.
And that has been the case until recently, really.
Did slightly off topic? Did you have rationing in the Netherlands during World War II?
Yes, we had.
Yes, so
yeah.
The same sort of background to behind allotments and their key role they played in these hard times.
That's true, and it makes you wonder how will we manage if this happens again? God forbid we get a war, but there could be a lot of circumstances where food is not available or not in the amount that we need.
Yeah, I mean, I think half the trouble as well nowadays is we don't eat seasonally like we used to. We expect to be able to get tomatoes in the middle of winter because we can. When if we ate seasonally, we would eat cabbages, for example, in the middle of winter, and we were used to that. I think we would stand a better chance of surviving harsher times, but these days, no, it's so common for us not to eat seasonally.
And we have lost the ability to conserve food, to protect food, to eat it in another time of year.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Well, that's interesting, as you may have heard on a podcast I've done recently where I spoke about the zombie apocalypse. A bit of a comedy, a bit of fun I had with that one.
Yes. That was the Halloween edition.
That's it. Yes. But I just thought that kind of mentality is what has been lost these days, and it goes in par with growing our own food on allotments.
Yes.
I've gone way away from subject now, haven't we?
Yeah, well, let's go back to the subject. It's not that different, though, because those threats also bring younger people now to the conclusion that some people really, that it's better to go back and have contact with your own food again, with your own food production again. So although we got more money to buy our food in the supermarkets, more and more I hear people saying, I do want to have more contact with my own food again. I don't want to be responsible for all those air miles across the world, for all those components of my food coming to the supermarket. I want to grow my own food again. I must admit I'm living in my own green, sustainable bubble, so I suppose it's only a tiny part of the Dutch population who is saying this, but I think it's irreversible. Like in organic food, the first 10 years or 15 years, you were a very strange person if you said you were eating organic food, and now it's really rather a big part of the whole food chain now.
Yeah, it's commonly accepted to be organic growing food or eating organically. It's normal, especially people who grow their own on allotments and in their gardens. I find they're the people who are more keyed into growing organically.
Exactly. And there are also people who think it's healthy to be outside and exercise, and gardening is a perfect way to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And in the UK, there's been a rise in popularity with gardening and allotments from younger generations. And currently, the sort of trend I'm seeing happening at the moment is about mental health awareness and how gardening has helped people with mental health issues overcome them, such as anxiety or depression. Being out in the garden has helped with that.
I think it's even the prescription in the not the RHS, the NHS it's called. You can get a subscription for a gardening course or something. Have I read that right?
There is a young girl named Annabelle who runs Life at Number 27. I can't remember if she's actually got it on the NHS, but she was trying to get it prescribed on the NHS, and she set up a little allotment site in the country to do this sort of courses with and get people with anxiety issues gardening.
You had her as a guest in one of your shows, hadn't you?
Yes, she's been on twice, I think, now.
Okay.
I'm very, very good friends with her, actually. She's a lovely girl. She's got a lot of big plans, a heart of gold to try and get this idea across. But there's several bloggers and YouTubers out there at the moment who are talking about similar issues. So there's certainly a lot going on in that aspect.
Well, here in the Netherlands, it seems that allotment associations get a lot of interest nowadays. There used to be some empty gardens in these complexes, but as I now understand, people have to wait 1, 2, or 3 years to get a garden, which is very positive. But we also see some developments in the supermarket. I don't know whether you're familiar with Albert Heijn. Ahold,
No.
big supermarket business here in the Netherlands. And a couple of years ago, they had a big campaign called Small Vegetable Patch, moestuintje, small vegetable patch. Moestuin is vegetable garden in Dutch.
Right.
And they cooperated with seed people. And if you spent, say, 10 euros or 15 euros, I don't remember, you got a package of seed of parsley or cabbage or salad or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think a whole new generation of children saw for the first time in their lives how salad was growing on their own windowsill.
Fantastic.
That was a very nice campaign, and I think it's part of a development here in the Netherlands where we, there's a little bit of change going on, I think.
And it's well deserved, and it's needed. You know, I do worry that younger generations who have no concept. I think there was a TV program many years ago, and a child was asked where a carrot comes from, and her answer was America. I mean, she might be right. It might actually come from America, but
Yeah.
the concept that it comes out of the ground was alien.
I wonder if she even knew what a carrot looked like.
A good question. Very good question.
A friend of mine works at a school where she helps the students to prepare meals for the elderly, for institutions.
Right.
And some of those students didn't even know how a potato looked like because they thought they were always like a cubus without any. You understand? And in a bag. They never had seen a potato. So
it's scary, isn't it?
That's happening. Yes. So, but I'm glad to say there are more campaigns now from the supermarket business, but also from the rest of the society to bring the vegetable lands inside our cities again. Are you familiar with urban agriculture?
Yes, I mean, that's technically where an allotment started, urban agriculture. As I said, back in the Industrial Revolution, as the farm workers moved into city to find work, these allotment pops up, and it was classed as urban agriculture. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's one difference with the allotment movement, and that's, of course, the vegetable patches are within the city boundaries again, but in urban agriculture movement, you have not one particular piece of land for yourself, but you usually share it with other people. And you have vertical gardens against the walls and on rooftops, etc. I think it's a little bit different from the allotment movement we just spoke about.
Yes, yeah, it does sound a bit different, but it's all with the same goals.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it's going in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think that's a nice comparison between both countries, and I must say I see more similarities than I had expected. We do share a part of West Europeans' history.
Absolutely. I think allotments have a real deep-seated history here in the UK, and it sounds like it does in the Netherlands as well. And I think if either country was to lose their allotments, it would be a deep shame. It really would.
We still have to be awake to prevent councils from making more building projects on those lands, of course.
That means they need using. If we're using the allotment sites, they can't build on it.
Exactly. We need to be active. Well, now we know more about allotment gardening in the UK, in the past, in the present, and our expectations for the future, with thanks, of course, to my podcaster friend Richard. Let's go back to the Netherlands. How about the future of allotments here? We talk about this with Ons Buiten. She's board member of AVVN, which is short for Algemeen Verbond van Volkstuindersverenigingen in Nederland. I suppose the National Allotment Society in the UK is a sister organization, so to speak. Anyway, AVVN's goal is to ensure a smooth continuation of gardens and garden parks. Saskia Eberly is one of their members and she's gardening in Utrecht. We'll speak with her later. First, my talk with Ons. So, what do you think is the future of allotment gardening in the Netherlands? What's your opinion about this?
Well, you see a lot of different directions in it. So, but generally, gardens are opening up to the neighborhood. That's one. But it's also because you need the support of more people, because you hire a plot of land of the community.
Yes.
So if the community says there's no law, so we pick it in.
Yeah.
What can we do?
So
that's
you need ambassadors.
Yes, and ambassadors are around you. And that's one development you see everywhere. Another thing is that you see also that the recreational gardens think of themselves, well, we have also edible gardens.
Edible.
Edible.
Yeah.
Sorry. Edible things in the garden. So we promote to look at your own garden from what can you do in producing food for animals and yourself.
And how about organic gardening on those allotments?
Yes, that's another good thing you say. It's mainstream now that we are organic.
Okay.
And that's also because we, in our national movement, the AVVN, we have this promotion of organic gardening.
The AVVN is something like the British Allotment Society,
Yes,
the National Allotment Society.
We work together as national boards with the other country
organizations.
Yes.
And the Dutch organization is called AVVN.
Yes, and it's very good in organic gardening.
And you're in the board,
yes.
in the national board of the AVVN. And what's your role in the board?
I try to help everyone to change the organization to have a good future together.
Okay, so you want to
open up.
Yeah, but you want the organization to be future-proof.
Yes.
What does the organization need to be future-proof in the Netherlands?
What we need is that everyone knows we are existing, because in the past we had these enormous hedges everywhere around the allotment gardens, so it was like closed areas, and now we open up. So you can see them.
It's a public space. People can walk.
Yes.
Walk in.
Yes, we forgot that.
Yeah.
And now we open up and we work together with new initiatives, new green initiatives, and they need also this support, because sometimes a little money is given to a new initiative for 3 years, and after that they say, now you have to do it on your own. And well,
innovation is promoted, but when an initiative is successful, they must take care of themselves.
Yes.
I think I recognize this.
It's collapsing, and we think we can help you.
Can you give an example of such a project?
Yeah, a neighborhood garden, for instance.
I see. Yeah.
Or tiny forests. And we have also a very nice project that is Nationaal Keurmerk Natuurlijk Tuinieren. And you see it there on a shield. It's a ladybird with 4 dots.
Yeah.
And if you earn the 4 dots, then you are completely organic, and all the people get happy about that. It's a learning process, and in Europe we are an example of how to raise your gardeners to organic gardening.
To stimulate them.
Yes, to ecological.
Because every member of the AVVN wants to have that shield, of course.
Of course, it's another.
But you deserve the honor, because you have to work for it.
And in the future we also try to make it possible for individual gardeners to have a shield next to their garden, that they have earned their 4 dots.
So they can show the perfection.
This is
the
way. That's what
that sounds nice.
And we are also connecting the different projects in the country. Individually, our organizations have the strong points.
I think this is a trend in green countries, so to speak.
I hope so.
People work together more and more because they see it's the only way to make progress and to survive.
Yes, and also climate resistance, for instance. How do we do that together? So that is a great chance to work together.
As you might remember from part 1, we made a walk on the allotment site. I didn't manage to make all the recordings I wished to make. In fact, the batteries of my recorder were low, and I'd left the spare batteries in the clubhouse. So there's always a lesson to be learned for your podcaster. Anyway, Ons showed me the animal meadow on the allotment site with the sheep and goats and geese and rabbits. It's a community space, and the allotmenteers take care for the animals together with the people of the residential area, which is just outside the garden park gate. The manure is used for the gardens, of course. On the other side of the path, I noticed, well, so to speak, real vegetable gardens, as most Britons would expect on an allotment site. 35 veg patches in total. Some of them are being managed by these neighbouring families as well, and some of them by the allotmenteers on the site. And there's also a community herb garden where you can harvest your herbs with a special community scissors. I'd like you to go to our show note to see a picture of these scissors. It's quite funny, really. Finally, we saw 12 square meter gardens, each one taken care for by 4 families from the houses nearby. And I suppose on Wednesday afternoons and in the weekends, when school's out, it must be a buzz with children and their families there. Let's go back to Saskia's garden now. We spoke to her earlier in part 1, and we ended our visit to the garden in part 1 standing on the lawn. And now we continue our look around there. A gardener is helped by patience.
Exactly.
You have to see all the seasons. You have to see the sun, the beam of the sun in your garden.
Yeah.
And just be patient before you reallocate plants or create a new part of the garden.
Yeah, but we did a lot. We also made this thing, for example. It's how do you call this?
It's like a small arch.
Yeah,
I think it's
a living arch.
A hazel arch, I think.
Willow.
A willow it is.
So you want to walk around?
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think another characteristic of this garden is shade. There's a lot of shade. And so we are trying to make like a list of plants that will be able to survive in this garden, because now most of the leaves have fallen, so it's more sunny than it's in summer, for example. And I think that's one of the challenges of this garden.
One of the reasons why there is so much shade is because of this beautiful big tree you mentioned before.
Yeah.
But also the trees of the neighborhood, neighbor gardens.
Yeah, so that's difficult when you have to choose your plants, but with global warming and climate change, we're actually quite happy to have a shadow garden, because already in a shadow garden it's really difficult to keep it all alive in summer, and because we don't have running water here, so if you want to water your plants you have to use a bucket and water from the sloot.
Yeah,
the sloot?
The ditch with water.
With the ditch.
Yeah.
And if you have 220 square meters, it's quite a lot of work.
Yeah. So what are you doing? You're trying to get the ground covered, to get the soil covered all the time,
and choosing plants that's like these circumstances.
Exactly. What's allotment life for you? What does it mean for you? Because you told me you used to live in an apartment, you had no garden, but this is not an ordinary garden, it's on an allotment site. So you have neighbors. Is the community important for you?
It's very important for me. I think I even if I would have the opportunity to have this garden next to my house, I would prefer to have it here, for several reasons. The first reason is that it really feels like you're having a cottage and a little piece of land. It's different from your house. I mean, I can really leave my life behind and come here. And also the social aspect, to be here together with such a large group of plant lovers.
Yes.
It's really nice.
Yes.
Because I think we have, we're all really different, but we have something pretty strong in common, and that's that we like little
You love gardening.
green things.
You love being outside. Yeah. And I think you also have to do jobs together, haven't you?
We do. Yeah. And
Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, I think that's 4 times a year at least. There's like this community service, and then we have to do whatever's necessary, and we really like that. We've done it several times as a family, so instead of one person, we go the 3 of us, also my son, and he really loves it. If I say it's time to do the community work, yay! He's really happy. Because it's a nice feeling to work together and sweat together and then have a coffee.
And have a cup of tea.
Yeah, that's nice. And then you get to know the people. And what I like about it, that you make friendships with people from different generations also. We are like the youngsters here, which is funny.
I think they like to see you arrive here.
I think it's healthy to be around people of different ages, so I like that a lot.
Yeah. So, let's walk around the pink building. There's a secret path over here. There's the ditch with water.
Yeah.
This is also your garden. This is the border of your garden.
This is the border of my garden. Yeah, it actually needs some trimming.
Yeah. Well, that's allotment life. That's gardening life. Always work to do.
That's one of the tasks for autumn. Okay. This is our sunny lunch terrace.
I see.
So we have sun until 1 here now. We had a really nice lunch this weekend here. And it's nice. It's a beautiful view. I think our neighbor has a nice garden as well.
Yes, you enjoy each other's gardens.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. And this is a really old apple tree. Gave us lots and lots of apples. I'm still making juice and pies and everything.
Okay.
Be careful with this.
Yes. Step over it. Yes. And I see one or two apples lying on the floor on the ground here.
Not one
or
two thousand maybe. Yeah.
They are eaten by the mice, etc.
We leave them there because it's all food for the
good for your ecological garden, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this was the tour of your garden.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
You're
Saskia,
welcome.
for showing me around.
You're very welcome.
Discu finish. Thanks to Richard from the Veg Grower podcast and to Ons Buiten and Saskia Ebeli from AVVN for their contribution to both parts of this podcast about allotment gardening in the UK and the Netherlands. I must say, the recording and editing work took quite a lot of spare time, and I hope you're happy with the results. By the way, if you have a little bit of spare time left, I'd like to invite you to go to the Discutafel Green Podcast Top 5, which has been published last week. It's in a blog on discutafel.nl, and I hope you enjoy our green podcast tips. This is 2019 last show, looking forward at 2020 with new plans and a slightly different publication scheme. In each 6-week cycle we publish a new Discutafel podcast in English, each 5th Thursday, and in Dutch on the first and the third Thursday. So every other week we publish a podcast, but not always in the same language. It's always online from 7 o'clock in the morning Dutch time. You'll find the current broadcasting schedule on discutafel.nl. Catch up with older episodes at any time you like. Just go to the website to find out how. Thank you for listening to Discutafel in 2019 and for your comments by email or social media. They are much appreciated. Have a happy and sustainable New Year. And let's have an audio meeting in English again in our next show online from the 30th of January. In the meantime, let's go outside and until next time.